Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to Step Through the Ropes, Volume 21. In the 1990s, one of the best wrestlers of that very decade was none other than the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. As everyone knows, he had a very storied career. However, throughout the 1990s, he had quite the attitude behind the scenes. It all, as early as I understand, in 1993, when he wrestled Marty Jannetty for the Intercontinental Championship, and that was a match where Sensational Sherry had allied herself with Jannetty. After the Vince McMahon was not happy with the way their match turned out. Michaels alleged that was partying the night before the show until 7 o'clock in the morning. Jannetty had claimed he was not partying, however, was very tired. I personally thought that match was very good, but I don't know why Vince McMahon didn't like it. But as a result of all of Michaels' alleged Jannetty partying, Jannetty was fired from the WWF one more time. Then at WrestleMania 9, Michaels wound up wrestling Tatanka for the Intercontinental Championship, and Tatanka had claimed that he was supposed to win the belt, but Michaels claimed that Tatanka was sporting an attitude, and Tatanka claimed that Michaels and his posse, meaning the Clique, were kind of trying to bury people left and right seemingly, and Tatanka did not win the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 9. Now I understand that the late Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, he was the one responsible for Jannetty coming back because it turned out that Michaels lied about Jannetty partying the night before the Royal Rumble, and Hennig called Jannetty and said as a punishment they were going to take the IC title off Michaels and place it on Jannetty, and that all happened May 17th of 1993 on a live Monday Night Raw, which, by the way, for those wondering, that was the first time ever a championship changed on Monday Night Raw since it started 4 months before that. Michaels eventually regained the Intercontinental Championship and brought in Kevin Nash, who was given the name Diesel, as his bodyguard. Michaels turned back the challenge of Mr. Perg at SummerSlam by countout, thanks to Diesel. And from what I understand, Michaels had failed a drug test, but Michaels denied doing steroids, but that's what they found in his system. And as a result, Michaels was stripped of the Intercontinental Championship, but the late Jack Tunney went on TV saying that Michaels was no longer IC champion due to failing to meet certain obligations. So, silly cover-up if you ask me, folks. But Michaels kept did not give the championship belt back, and of course he eventually did come back from suspension in time for the Survivor Series to replace Jerry the King Lawler, who Lawler was suspended for allegedly having something bad with an underage girl. Michaels teamed up with the Knights in a losing effort to Bret Hart and his three brothers. Michaels' attitude didn't really strike in 1994 that I know of. Well, actually, no, it did. Well, not really his attitude per se, but I understand WrestleMania 10, March 20th, 1994, Michaels fought Razor Ramon in a ladder match, which to this very day everyone talks about. And my understanding, they went longer than they were supposed to. As a result, the 10-man tag team match scheduled for that show was scratched off, and both Ramon and Michaels were chewed out by the late Randy Savage after their match for going longer than they should have. Well, scheduled to, I should say. They were supposed to go a certain time, and I don't know if they went 5 minutes longer or I don't know. But yeah. Let's see. Okay, well, in 1995, Michaels had hired Sid as his bodyguard, and prior to WrestleMania 11, my understanding, Sid and Shawn were not getting along behind the scenes, and Sid threatened to leave the company if his character wasn't moved away from Michaels. So the night after WrestleMania 11, Sid had powerbombed Michaels on 3 occasions, and which eventually just turned Shawn into a fan favorite. But let's see if there's any more. Let me see. What was that? The only incident? Let me see. For Shawn Michaels in 1995, he came back, qualified for King of the Ring, didn't win King of the Ring. Okay, I think that's the only thing I can think about that of his attitude. But in 1996, when Shawn Michaels was on top of the world as he dethroned Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12, but during that matchup, Michaels had bumped into the cameraman, and Michaels, you could hear him as clear as day. He says to the cameraman, "Get the fuck out of the way right now." And eventually, Michaels was scheduled to have a trilogy of matches with Vader beginning at SummerSlam. They fought at SummerSlam with Michaels winning that matchup. There was talk of Vader beating Michaels for the title at Survivor Series 96, but Michaels wouldn't do the honors. And there was talk of Michaels regaining the belt from Vader at Royal Rumble 97 in Shawn's hometown of San Antonio, Texas. But of course, Shawn didn't want to drop the belt to Vader. He eventually ended up dropping the belt to Psycho Sid. But then 1997 arrived, and Shawn Michaels was world champion for a second time after defeating Sid at the Royal Rumble, and Shawn had lost his smile and claiming he had a knee injury and gave up the world title. My understanding, Michaels was supposed to face Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13, a rematch for the championship, but Michaels didn't want to do the honors for the Hitman, and he faked a knee injury and didn't even wrestle again for like 3 months. And I understand, I forgot what night it was, but it was later that year, Michaels and Bret Hart and got into a hair fight backstage. And then he said if no one broke it up, Bret Hart would have killed Shawn. And I understand both men were sent home for their unprofessionalism. Michaels wasn't seen again on TV for a month, and I understand he actually threatened to go to WCW at that time. So I guess in a way, Vince McMahon gave in to Shawn, or gave in to his demands. Shawn eventually had become a heel and started Degeneration X with Triple H. And Shawn, of course, we all know about the Montreal incident. He lied about being in on it. In 1998, Shawn Michaels had suffered the back injury during a casket match with The Undertaker, and my understanding is initially he didn't want to do the honors for Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14, even threatened not to show up. And eventually Michaels did do the honors for Steve Austin, and from what Jim Cornette claims, that Undertaker threatened to do a number on Michaels if he didn't do the honors for him. Michaels, as we know, did do the honors, and we all thought Shawn's career was over after that because we knew he was hurting. But he eventually came back. He was doing the commissioner position, and in 1999, even though he wasn't wrestling, took a break from wrestling at that point, Shawn got in Vince McMahon's ear because the original plan for WrestleMania 15 was supposed to be The Rock defending the world title against Stone Cold Steve Austin and Mick Foley. But Michaels got into McMahon's ear saying that the world title match at WrestleMania should be a one-on-one match, and as a result, Mick Foley was the odd man out, and he fought the Big Show, Paul White, earlier in the show to see who'd referee the match, and Foley won the match by DQ, and so Foley was like the odd man out of that one. And let's see if there's anything else Michaels did in 1999 that was pretty bad. No, but in the year, let me see. Okay, but in the year 2001, the night it was a live Monday Night Raw, which took place right before WrestleMania 17, and that was the night of WCW's final Monday Nitro broadcast. That Shawn Michaels, from what Triple H stated, Shawn Michaels was like pilled up out of his mind, and Michaels like caused a I don't know if it was a disturbance, but I guess his behavior backstage because Michaels was looking to come back, and Triple H, I understand word got to Vince McMahon, and I don't know if Michaels was shown the door, or I know Undertaker had it with Shawn by that point, and that was like within the next year, Shawn began a journey of becoming a born again Christian and turning his life around for the better. And of course, most of Shawn's attitude, I guess, I don't know if it could be blamed on his doing painkillers or any drugs he did in the 90s. But what do you think, folks? You think Shawn Michaels was wrong in those days, that Shawn should have been professional and not bury people left and right, namely Vader and well, there was so many people that Shawn and the clique either buried or resulted in most people either quitting or getting fired throughout the 90s. But let me know, folks, what you think about how bad of an attitude Shawn Michaels had in the 1990s, early 2000s. And I'll be back with more wrestling topics for Get in the Ring. Sorry, not Get in the Ring, Step Through the Ropes.